It was supposed to be an ordinary shopping day. Customers walked into Oak Ridge Market, a small, family-owned store in a quiet suburban town, expecting to browse and buy just like anyone else. But for some, stepping into this store meant experiencing something no one should ever have to endure: humiliation, rejection, and discrimination, all because of the color of their skin. A Black mother, Danielle Carter, entered the store with her 10-year-old son, Malik, looking for groceries. She had shopped here before but had always sensed something off: lingering stares, hushed whispers, and employees who seemed to follow her every move. On this particular afternoon, as she reached for a loaf of bread, a store clerk approached her. "I'm sorry, but we can't serve you here," the clerk said, his voice cold and emotionless. Danielle froze. "Excuse me?" she asked, not quite believing what she had heard. The clerk, now visibly uncomfortable, shifted his stance. "The owner has a policy. He doesn't serve your kind." A sickening silence followed. Other shoppers, white customers, pretended not to hear. Danielle looked down at her son, whose innocent eyes searched hers for answers. Her stomach tightened with anger and embarrassment, but she refused to let herself break in front of Malik. "Are you serious?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mixture of fury and disbelief. The clerk simply nodded, and when Danielle turned to other customers for support, they avoided eye contact. The humiliation she felt was not new. It was a silent, crushing weight that Black Americans had carried for centuries, sometimes subtle, sometimes blatant. This time, it was out in the open, undeniable, and unapologetic. Danielle took out her phone, her hands shaking, and started recording. "Say that again," she demanded. The clerk hesitated. "Ma'am, I'm just doing my job." "And your job is to tell Black customers they're not welcome?" She turned the camera toward the other customers. "Does everyone here agree with this?" she asked, scanning the room. Still, no one spoke up. She walked out of the store, heart pounding, but she refused to let this moment pass unnoticed. That night, she uploaded the video to her social media with a caption: "Today, my son and I were refused service because we're Black. This is 2025, and this is still happening. Do better." The video spread like wildfire. In a matter of hours, thousands of people had seen it. Comments flooded in, some expressing outrage, others making excuses. Some even questioned whether Danielle was exaggerating. But what truly sent the video into the stratosphere was when a celebrity, someone with massive influence, took notice. This wasn't just about one store anymore. It was about something much bigger. And the world was about to pay attention. Danielle barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, the moment replayed in her mind: Malik's confused expression, the store clerk's dismissive tone, and the way the other customers had simply looked away, refusing to acknowledge what had just happened. By morning, her phone was vibrating nonstop. Her video had exploded. Thousands had turned into millions. News outlets picked up the story, and hashtags like #BoycottOakRidgeMarket and #RacismInRetail started trending. But while many rallied behind her, there were also skeptics. "Maybe there was a misunderstanding," one commenter wrote. "This doesn't happen in America anymore," another claimed. "She's probably exaggerating to get attention." Others went further, attacking Danielle personally. They dug through her social media, looking for anything to discredit her. Meanwhile, Oak Ridge Market stayed silent. No response, no statement, just business as usual. That was, until a local news station sent a reporter to get answers. When confronted, the store's owner, Richard Owens, a white man in his 60s, denied everything. "That's ridiculous," he scoffed. "We don't refuse service to anyone." But when pressed about the video, his tone shifted. "Look, I run my business the way I see fit. If I choose not to serve certain people, that's my right. This is America, isn't it?" That clip was all it took. The public outrage that had been simmering exploded into a full-blown firestorm. Protests began forming outside Oak Ridge Market. Customers, Black, white, and from all walks of life, showed up not to shop, but to demand answers. "We won't support racism in our town," shouted one protester, holding a sign that read, "No justice, no profits." The store's regular customers started feeling the heat too. Some white shoppers who continued to buy from Oak Ridge Market found themselves questioned online. "Why are you still supporting a racist business?" people asked. Then came the boycott. People began posting videos of themselves canceling their memberships, returning items, and pledging never to shop there again. Small businesses in the area distanced themselves, refusing to stock any products linked to Oak Ridge Market. Richard Owens, who had been running the store for over 30 years, was now facing a crisis he had never imagined. But instead of apologizing, he doubled down. "This is cancel culture gone mad," he grumbled in a radio interview. "People should be able to decide who they do business with. If they don't like it, they can shop somewhere else." That was the moment that changed everything. Because someone with a much bigger platform was listening. A-list celebrity and social justice advocate Jordan Michaels, a well-known actor with over 50 million followers, saw the clip. Furious, he took to Twitter. "I just watched a store owner proudly say he refuses to serve Black customers. In 2025, we're not letting this slide. I'm personally going to this store. Let's see what happens when I walk in." The tweet racked up millions of likes and shares within hours. Everyone was watching. The question was, what would happen when Jordan Michaels walked through those doors? The moment Jordan Michaels posted his tweet, the internet went into a frenzy. People speculated about what would happen when the celebrity stepped foot inside Oak Ridge Market. Would the store owner recognize him? Would he be denied service like Danielle Carter? Would Richard Owens stand by his words when facing someone with immense fame and influence? The anticipation was electric. News outlets began covering Jordan's involvement, and even late-night talk shows discussed the controversy. Activists praised him for taking action, while Owens' supporters dismissed it as a publicity stunt. Regardless of the opinions swirling around, one thing was certain. When Jordan Michaels arrived at Oak Ridge Market, the world would be watching. 2 days later, a black SUV pulled up in front of the store. A crowd of protesters and onlookers had gathered, holding signs and chanting. Camera crews lined the sidewalk. People had their phones out, recording every second. Then, Jordan stepped out. He was dressed simply, jeans, a hoodie, and sunglasses, but his presence commanded attention. Flanked by 2 associates, he walked straight toward the entrance. Reporters shouted questions. "Jordan, what do you expect will happen? Do you think he'll refuse to serve you? Are you here to shut down this business?" Jordan didn't respond. He just kept walking. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Employees, some of whom had worked at the store for years, exchanged nervous glances. A few customers quickly finished their transactions and left, sensing that something big was about to go down. And then, Richard Owens stepped out from behind the counter. He locked eyes with Jordan, his face twisting into a scowl. He recognized him instantly. "You're that Hollywood guy, huh?" Owens sneered. Jordan took off his sunglasses and looked around. "I'm a customer," he said simply. "Are you going to serve me?" For a moment, Owens hesitated. The cameras were rolling, and he knew that whatever he did next would define his fate. His reputation, his business, his entire legacy, it all came down to this one decision. Then he made his choice. "You can get the hell out of my store," Owens said, his voice dripping with defiance. "I don't serve people like you." A collective gasp rippled through the store. The moment had just been cemented in history. Within minutes, footage of the encounter flooded social media. The words, "I don't serve people like you," were repeated over and over, replayed on news channels, dissected by commentators, and shared by millions. It was no longer just a boycott, it was a reckoning. Celebrities, activists, and even politicians chimed in. "Disgusting," one actor tweeted. "This is why we still have work to do." Even corporations released statements condemning Owens, ensuring the public they stood against discrimination. But the most powerful response came from Jordan Michaels himself. In an Instagram Live that night, he addressed his 50 million followers. "I didn't go to that store expecting to start a fight. I went to see the truth for myself. And the truth is exactly what Danielle Carter said it was. This man refuses to serve Black people. In broad daylight. On camera. In 2025. If you think racism is gone, think again." He went further. But this isn't just about one store. This is about every business that thinks they can get away with discrimination. This is about every person who's been told they don't belong. This is about change. He then announced he would personally donate $500,000 to Black-owned businesses in the area and encouraged his fans to do the same. Hashtag Boycott Oakridge Market was no longer just a hashtag, it was a movement. And Richard Owens? He had no idea that his worst nightmare was only beginning. The fallout from Jordan Michaels' visit was immediate and devastating for Oakridge Market. The video of Owens' blatant racism spread like wildfire. Within hours, it had been viewed tens of millions of times, making global headlines. But the real damage wasn't just online, it was in the real world. The morning after the video went viral, the first thing Owens noticed was the eerie silence outside his store. The once bustling parking lot was now completely empty. For the first time in years, not a single customer walked through the doors. Then came the phone calls. Vendors began pulling out. Suppliers canceled their contracts. Companies that had stocked Oakridge Market shelves no longer wanted to be associated with it. Next, Owens' bank contacted him. Due to the overwhelming backlash and concerns about business liability, his lines of credit were being reviewed. Loan offers that had once been open to him suddenly vanished. And then, the worst blow of all, his landlord. The owner of the building that housed Oakridge Market had seen the viral video and wanted nothing to do with the controversy. He served Owens an eviction notice, citing a breach of ethical conduct clause in their lease agreement. Owens was stunned. "You can't do this," he shouted over the phone. But the response was blunt. "Your business is a liability. You have 30 days to vacate." For decades, Owens had run his store with impunity. He had always believed he was untouchable, that his community would protect him. But the world had changed. The modern era had no patience for racism caught in 4K. And now, the walls were closing in. Meanwhile, Danielle Carter, whose original video had started it all, was witnessing something incredible. Jordan Michaels' pledge to donate $500,000 to Black-owned businesses had ignited a movement. People all over the country began highlighting and supporting Black entrepreneurs. Online directories of Black-owned stores gained thousands of new members overnight. Danielle, who had always dreamed of opening her own business but lacked the funding, suddenly found herself at the center of something bigger than she had ever imagined. One morning, she received an unexpected call. "Danielle, this is Jordan Michaels." Her heart nearly stopped. "I saw your video, and I saw what you and your son went through," Jordan continued. "I want to help. Do you still want to start your own business?" Danielle, still in shock, stammered. "Why, yes, I do." "Good," Jordan said. "Because I'm personally investing in your store. Let's turn this into something positive." Tears welled in Danielle's eyes. The very thing that had humiliated her and her son was now transforming into an opportunity to build something of their own. And she wasn't alone. Across the country, Black entrepreneurs were receiving donations, media coverage, and new customers like never before. What had started as an ugly act of racism had now turned into a movement of empowerment. With his business collapsing, Richard Owens tried one last desperate move, an apology. He recorded a shaky video, looking into the camera with forced remorse. I made a mistake," he stammered. "I didn't mean to offend anyone. I grew up in a different time, and I guess I just didn't realize how things are now. Please, let's put this behind us." But no one was buying it. The comments were brutal. "You didn't realize racism was bad? In 2025. You were proud of your policy until you started losing money. Too late. Enjoy retirement." Owens had miscalculated. The world wasn't going to forgive him just because he suddenly regretted getting caught. The store that had stood for over 30 years was now a ghost town. And soon, it would be gone forever. 1 month after the scandal, Oakridge Market was no more. The once busy store stood abandoned, its windows boarded up, a for lease sign hanging in the front. The community that had once supported it had turned its back on Richard Owens. The few loyal customers he had left realized that shopping there came with a cost, their reputation. Owens himself had gone into hiding. After facing relentless backlash, losing his business, and becoming a national disgrace, He sold his home and moved to another town. His name had become synonymous with racism, and no amount of damage control could fix it. But while one business fell, another was rising. With Jordan Michaels' investment, Danielle Carter opened her own store, Carter's Market, a grocery store focused on inclusivity and community. The grand opening was a massive event. Hundreds showed up to support her, including Jordan himself. The same reporters who had covered the original scandal were now reporting on the triumph that had followed. "This isn't just my store," Danielle said, standing in front of the crowd, microphone in hand. "This is for every person who's ever been told they don't belong. This is proof that when we stand together, we win." Her son Malik, standing beside her, beamed with pride. The very experience that had once made him feel humiliated had now become the reason his mother was a business owner. And the support didn't stop there. Carter's Market wasn't the only business that flourished after the boycott. The nationwide conversation about supporting Black-owned businesses led to a lasting shift. More people actively sought out minority-owned establishments. Large corporations made pledges to increase diversity in their partnerships. What started as a single act of racism had led to widespread change. The downfall of Oakridge Market wasn't just about one store. It was about a lesson, a reminder that the world was no longer a place where hate could thrive unchecked. In an era where everything could be recorded and exposed, there were no more shadows to hide in. Companies took note. Business owners realized that their actions had consequences. Across the country, policies were being reviewed. Employees were being trained on diversity and inclusion. The message was clear: racism was no longer just unethical. It was bad business. And it wasn't just about punishment, it was about progress. Months later, Danielle was interviewed for a documentary about the incident. Sitting in her bright new store, surrounded by shelves stocked with fresh produce, she reflected on how much had changed. "I never expected this to happen," she admitted. "I just wanted to buy some groceries. I never thought a simple trip to the store would change my life." She paused, looking around. But maybe that's the point. Sometimes, the smallest moments reveal the biggest truths. And when we see injustice, we have a choice. We can ignore it, or we can stand up and do something. She smiled. "I'm glad I stood up." And with that, the story that had started with an act of hate ended with something far greater: hope, justice, and the power of change.